I think that there are effective resistance movements happening within the working class that do offer some salvation in this moment, but things are pretty dark right now, so you really have to seek out the good news.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I believe we have Sam Sachs in the Zoom now. Sam is the host of Means Morning News on Means TV. Sam, welcome to the Valley Labor Report. It's great to have you.
Hey, Jacob. It's good to be on finally.
Yeah, been watching Means Morning News for a long time. I think Adam listens to it more regularly than I do. But I've been following Means TV. I think that I have been on and off a member of Means TV like since it started. And I actually remember being made aware of it because the folks who started Means TV got their start doing AOC's campaign, right? Like, isn't that how they kind of got big?
Yeah, Nick and Naomi, they're the co-founders of the co-op, and they launched a fundraiser, I think in 2018 or 2019, but it brought a lot of exposure to the project when they did do an ad for her campaign, which ended up helping her win. Mm-hmm. But it was always an interesting idea that Nick had. I met Nick when he would record podcast shows for the Street Fight guys. This was back when I would do live shows with Brett and Brian from Street Fight, and we went on a tour of the South with the Trillbillies, and Nick was the videographer for the whole thing, and this was in late 2019, I guess, and that's around when I had met Nick and sort of pitched him on doing a morning show for Means TV because they were just about to launch the whole thing. They had just started populating the site with various documentaries and figuring out what sort of original content they were going to debut when the site first went live.
Yeah, it's really great. Definitely encourage folks to become a subscriber, become a member of Means TV. You can do that at means.tv and use the promo code TVLR for 20% off your first month or your first year if you get an annual subscription.
That's right. You guys are on there now, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We've been on there now for about a month.
Yeah, this is the thing that's good about Means TV is it's a platform where a bunch of leftist creators can gather, and I think that the left media in a lot of ways today so splintered because there isn't huge pockets funding what we do because what we do is adversarial to them. So that leaves us all kind of siloed off from each other, whether it's on Patreon or on YouTube or Twitch or wherever. We have to build our own little shows and try to find our own little audience who's willing to contribute to our projects. And it's tough to find, it's tough to ask people to pay $5, $10 or whatever for each individual show that they want to listen to or project they want to be a part of. So I think Means TV is trying to build something bigger where we can all be in it together, share the gains from any successes from it, not have to compete against each other for audiences, but kind of build a platform where left media can exist without too much financial strain.
Yeah, it's a really cool project. We're really excited to be a part of it, and look forward to staying a part of it for a long time, hopefully, Lord willing. And so, I wanted to talk to you about some of the news of the day, but before we do that, I want to stay on you biographically for a little bit. Can you talk to the audience about how you came to your politics? I mean, you do a politics show now on a left-wing streaming company, and so what are you sort of like a red diaper baby, or were you a convert? I guess.
I wasn't a red diaper baby. I mean, I always had parents that. They're liberals. My dad has been a Democrat his whole life. I think like a lot of young people, you sort of get exposed to left-leaning thought through art and music and movies and reading. I got a degree in philosophy, which exposed me to a lot of, left-wing anti-capitalist thinkers. But those ideas that get planted in your mind at a young age through exposure to that stuff end up getting confirmed through your material experiences with the world as you get older. So whether it's a job you have, or watching friends or loved ones try to navigate the U.S. healthcare system, or just being inundated on a daily basis. I mean, I work in news, so I see a lot of it, with just the destruction and exploitation that capitalism is causing on a daily basis. It affects you. I mean, I think everyone on the left is fundamentally empathetic, and it's hard to turn that stuff off. So it ends up affecting your politics. And, to me, the answer has always been we have to build a new society that isn't run by profit, that the public owns, as Lenin would say, the commanding heights of the economy, whether that be, extractive industries, banking, transportation, social services, education, that sort of stuff. Now, how we get there, what exactly it'll look like, I have ideas, but I'm not as committed to those. So, for now, I'm just trying to interpret the news and events happening around us in a way that highlight this constant struggle that, whether people realize it or not yet, if you're in the working class, you're a part of.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Yeah, that's a very similar sort of perspective, for me currently is I have some thoughts, but ultimately, I'm more concerned about directionally, where are we going and what can we do to move in the right direction rather than, exactly what does my utopia look like. I don't spend just a whole lot of time thinking about that. But the material conditions, I think, were really important for me as I kind of came to my politics. I was politicized in like 2015, like a lot of people my age. And as I was, at the same time, I was listening to Bernie, and I was trying to read and learn about politics and learn about, people on the left and learn about people on the right at that time. I came out of a conservative family. And so I was still, I was like, I was still trying to kind of find my way. But at the same time, I was working in a restaurant, right? And I just talked in Boss Watch about how, just last week, a grand jury indicted a fast food manager for sexually abusing a child that was working for him in Alabama. And, thankfully I didn't have anything like that happen at the restaurant that I worked at, but it sucked. It was super hard work. And it was hard for me, and it was difficult, and it was really like strenuous, and I didn't make much money. But ultimately, when I was working there, I was still living at home and like not paying bills, and I was trying to get money to like, fuck around on the weekends, right? I was the only person that was the case. Everybody else was trying to pay rent, put food on the table, take care of children, working in a hole-in-the-wall podunk burger joint in Alabama. And so, I looked at that, and I felt at the time very, very strongly that it was fundamentally unfair that these people who are working so hard, are so economically precarious. And that feeling is made all the more. I feel that all the more even as I am no longer economically precarious. I have had a good union job my whole career. I've always had health care. I've always had a retirement plan. all of those kinds of things, and I'm not economically precarious, and that's bullshit. Right? Like, why should I get that and then other people who work as harder than I do don't? And that's really kind of fundamentally, I think, sort of the genesis of my politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's, just because if we individually are doing okay, like I said, I think fundamentally everyone on the left is empathetic, and it's hard to ignore what's happening around us, especially in our country, especially as it deteriorates even further. And I mean, to me, it's always been obvious, I guess, not always, but, to me nowadays, it's obvious what the problems are. And and I can't turn that off. So, that affects my politics, and it's led me, down a career path. I'm not saying that I'm, I think we, a lot of us, are putting in work every day to live our lives the way that our politics are aligned. And I obviously have a lot of work to do on that and stuff, but, I've tried to at least, in my careers, pursue platforms where I can talk about these things without compromising myself. So I've been pretty lucky to be able to do that too.
Right. And so, speaking about your job professionally, I don't know how much of your kind of professional life is centered around Means Morning News, but on that program, how do you decide what to talk about? That's something that Adam and I wrestle with a lot for our program, because there is so much happening, and there's so much that is worthy of being talked about, and so and also you have to kind of there's a game of like, how do I get people to listen to the stuff that maybe they wouldn't be interested in if it didn't come attached to something else that's a little bit more clickbaity or in the mainstream. How do you make those sort of editorial decisions?
It's not easy. I mean, especially nowadays, it does seem a bit like a fire hose when you're trying to figure out what to pick out. With Means Morning News, I like to do a combination of both the stories that people are seeing on their evening news, but relate to them in a way that I feel is more accurate, or that highlights more the class struggle at work, along with other news that they aren't seeing that is not being reported around. So I try to find a balance in those two stories. There's often lots of information that comes out of the federal government in the forms of Inspector General reports, GAO reports, that a lot of major news outlets don't pick up on, that you can find some interesting information in to relay. But yeah, I mean, it has been a lot tougher these days, and with the genocide in Gaza, which is, I think, rightfully consuming so much attention in left-wing media. It's hard to, and Means Morning News is about a 15 to 20 minute show every morning, because really it is just, me and with a little bit of help at headquarters. But we do have limited space, and whatever I don't get to, I can talk about tomorrow. I don't, try to be like breaking news or anything like that. This is very much an analysis show, and we do try to like bring news that people aren't listening to it as well. But it's tough. I guess I just try to, we have certain beats when it comes to anti-imperialism and anti-capitalism, which, we talk a lot about labor organizing, union busters, defense spending, expanding the social welfare state, corruption. So I think that there's probably a wheelhouse of stories that we sort of stick to. But I like to, things can get pretty gloomy. So, I'll try to mix in some softer stories as well.
Is there anything that you think that folks should be paying attention to that maybe aren't being talked about enough in particular?
That's a good question. There is, I mean, just the open corruption now that has taken place. I mean, our government has always been corrupt, but it's been taken to a new level right now. The targeting, to me, the other than the genocide in Gaza that's happening, which took place under the Biden administration as well. To me, the most frightening stuff happening is the crackdown on pro-Palestinian speech that's now been expanded to all foreign students. It's now being expanded to Chinese students, combined with the mass deportation efforts against essentially non-white people. If you've had some judicial interventions that have been able to slow it down, otherwise, you probably have hundreds of thousands of people who would have been deported by now, but that's the ultimate goal here. And I'm not sure how long the courts can continue to rein that in. These are some pretty dark times on those fronts, some of the most fascistic things that seem to be happening in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, it's definitely for sure mostly non-white, but I mean, I don't know. There was a story recently out of Mississippi where there was this Danish guy who there was a paperwork error, and he was going in for what he thought was his naturalization interview. He'd been in the country for 10 years, has 5 U.S. citizen children, and went in for what he thought was his naturalization interview. The last communication that he had only a couple of weeks before from USCIS was that he has no outstanding documents. That was a quote from a communication that he got from U.S. the immigration thing. And they arrested him because he missed a paperwork thing back in 2018, and he had that outstanding, and he's still in detention right now, and will likely be deported. And obviously, I mean, that sort of stuff is happening all over the place to brown folks and non-white folks.
There's such pressure to get those deportation numbers up that inevitably it's going to sweep in all sorts of people, including U.S. citizens. And you've seen, I think, upwards of 10 U.S. citizen children who've been deported through this campaign. So, it's disturbing stuff.
It's really bleak, and the Supreme Court just, I think it was yesterday or Thursday, allowed Trump to begin deporting the 500,000 people who are here on temporary humanitarian parole. I was proud of the AFL-CIO for filing an amicus brief on behalf of the immigrants. So that was good. The AFL-CIO has generally been pretty good about immigrants. And there's the CWA locals in Kentucky who represent thousands of people at a GE industrial park, have also done a lot of work for their members, many of whom are on that humanitarian parole. Are there any news stories that you're tracking that make you a little bit more hopeful that you think folks ought to know about?
Well, it's been a few months, but the whole UAW organizing campaign in the South. I'm looking forward to more development. I mean, every day you hear of new Starbucks cafes still being unionized. That's still going on. I genuinely think that before anything can happen in this country, we have to get union rates up.
Right.
And, whether that's, and then once that's happened, you need the power to be utilized, and whether that's through Sean Fain planning for a 2028 general strike and trying to get contracts aligned through that, or something else. I think that there are effective resistance movements happening within the working class that do offer some salvation in this moment. But like I said, things are pretty dark right now, so you really have to seek out the good news.
Yeah, absolutely. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.